Many people think that paleo and low-carb diets are very expensive, but that's not necessarily the case, as Carolyn Rush has proven. In fact, she was so successful she wrote a book on it called Primal Tightwad. Here's her story.
Good morning, Carolyn, and welcome to the Low Carb Paleo Show.
Thank you. How are you?
I am well. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Wonderful. I trust you are both wonderfully well.
Yes.
I know I am. I'm sunburned, but I'm fine.
You're sunburned?
Yeah, I went to the coast for Memorial Day, which is, you may remember, is a long weekend here in America.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and my wet skin got burned, but I'll survive. So, Caroline, our common friend Noah Get-Godas, I always have a hard time pronouncing, suggest we have a chat with you, and here you are. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very happy that she connected us, and she is actually the reason why I wrote the book, my book, Primal Tightwad,
Right.
because she has, of course, for years embraced the paleo, primal, ancestral diet. And she says one of the questions she gets most often is, or questions / comments is, well, I sure would like to eat that way, but oh, it's so expensive, and oh, I just can't. And they quit before they even start. And
Right.
literally pleaded with me, will you please write a book? And
Yeah.
well, everybody knows all that stuff about how to save money on groceries. And she said, no, they don't. Because as lifelong tightwads, we know that what we learned from our mothers and grandmothers is hardwired. And it's easy to assume that, well, everyone was raised this way, right? Everyone's parents lived through the Depression or whatever. And I guess it took for me to take a step back and just start emptying the contents of my brain onto a Word document and realize, oh, I do know a lot. You know, when I start writing it down, you realize, okay, yeah, there's a lot of information to get across. And
Right.
yeah,
So, by the way, I saw Nora at Paleo FX 2017 and told her you were going to be on the show. She was excited.
Yeah, well, she's so inspiring, and reading her books always gets me reinvigorated to eat well and reward myself with healthy food. And yeah, she's great. She's a great spokesperson for this.
Yes, she is. So it's safe to assume you're following the paleo diet, right?
Oh, very much so. Even more the primal diet, as Nora describes it. So I know a lot of paleo people will eat maple syrup or honey or sweet potatoes or things like that, and I don't do anything.
Right. So, but you also used to be vegetarian. So how did you transition from that to paleo?
It was pretty gradual. I had been a vegetarian since the 80s, really. And I would say in around 2000, Nora showed me the book Native Nutrition. I forget the author. And it had such a compelling argument for animal products that at the time, being a vegetarian, I thought, well, I will eat fish occasionally. Like, he made a good case for at least fish and fish oil. So till about, say, 2009 or 10, I get pescatarian, a vegetarian who eats fish. And then when Nora's first book, Primal Body, Primal Mind, came out, the first edition, of course I read that and was reminded of the ancestral, the Western Price research, and thought, okay, well, maybe I'll cut out grains. So I cut out grains. And after about, a year, I thought, well, I better cut out beans, because she said, well, really, beans and legumes have a lot of these other alkaloids and lectins, I forget. So then I cut out beans. And so I was doing mostly dairy and eggs and fish, trying so hard to be paleo primal. And Then I took a Cyrex blood test, and it determined that I had a off the chart sensitivity to eggs and also casein sensitivity. So there goes my eggs and dairy. And I won't say I was forced to, but I really didn't have a lot of options. I certainly, as a tightwad, could not live on fish unless I was raising them in the backyard. So I got some ground turkey and made myself a turkey burger, and it was surprisingly not traumatic. I thought, as a vegetarian of, I don't even know how, more than 20 years, that I would be disgusted or sad or I don't know. But it tasted really good.
Yeah.
You know.
So you didn't feel like a traitor to your cause?
No, not at all. And that was the biggest surprise to me, like what a non-event it was. I assumed it would be this dun dun dun, like, you are now a meat eater. It was more like, oh, well, that was good, and I'll have another one later. And that was it. So it was a very gradual cutting out the grains and beans, but then making the shift from dairy, eggs to exclusively meat and fish was in a day, literally, because I got the test results back, and all right, well, that's it then. So, do
you have a healthy source of turkey where you are?
I'm really lucky. There's a farm about 45 minutes from here and to the south that has sustainable, free range, happy, groovy turkeys, and they sell a pound for $1.89 of ground turkey.
Wow, that's a good price.
Great price. So that's why I'm a turkey burger turkitarian. Yeah, I've got my freezer in the basement filled. I drive down there about 3 or 4 times a year. You know, it's a bit of a drive. So I just buy several months worth and pick some up for family members too, and have created dozens of spice combinations for turkey burgers.
Right.
So it's never the same 2 days in a row, or even I could go probably a month and not repeat the same flavor profile. So
right. Do I get the feeling you don't eat a lot of beef? Is that because it's too expensive?
Yeah, even the stuff that it can get on sale, if it's around $5 or $6 a pound, that's still over $1 a serving, $1.25 a serving. Which I try and keep my servings of meat, protein to $1 or less. So anything that's over $1, it makes me nervous. But I'll treat myself once in a while to beef. Things like lamb are very expensive here anyway. I like to travel. My boyfriend is generous enough to subsidize some European travel. And when we go to the Balkans, like in Albania, Macedonia, Kosovo, lamb is very reasonable. So I eat a lot of lamb when I'm in the Balkans. But in the Twin Cities, it's upwards of $10 a pound for the good pasture. Yeah. So, yeah. So
which is worth it when you can afford it, but then it's difficult otherwise. So you wrote a book. I believe it's an ebook, right? Is it?
Yeah, it's exclusively an ebook.
Okay, called Primal Tightwad.
Primal
Tightwad, yeah.
Maximizing your health on a minimal budget is the subtitle of it.
Okay. And so Nora gave you this idea, right? Or she begged you to write the book, right? Can you tell? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. I had never written a book before, and she said, just write what you know. Just tell people what's in your head, and I did. And the more I wrote, the more ideas I got. And I get up pretty early in the morning and I take a walk. And so I started taking a notebook with me, because what would happen is I would get up and start writing on the computer, and then I go out for my walk. And as I was walking, I need to talk about this, and I need to talk about that. So I'd write all these things down and then get them on the computer. And so I could advise anyone who's trying any kind of creative pursuit or of writing is that just start, because you'd be surprised how much comes out once you start. It begets, I don't know what the phrase would be, but output begets output, and just
kind of a train of thought.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, ignition.
I know the feeling. A good friend of mine, I had this idea about writing a book, but I've never written anything in my life, and so I was very hesitant. Plus, English is my second language.
Right.
But a good friend of mine, supported me in that, and she said, "Just get started and see what happens."
Yep.
And then 7 books later, I'm still doing it. So I know how it feels. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with you. So on, you knew I was going to ask you, do you have tips that you'd like to share?
Sure. Well, I guess the biggest tip would be to simplify and not put a lot of pressure on yourself to create. And this may be counter to your own life's mission, but don't put yourself under a lot of pressure to create incredible meals 3 times a day. I just think a simple approach, and when you're dealing with quality ingredients like pasture-raised meats and locally grown vegetables in season, you don't need to do much to them.
Right.
Just get out of the way of their flavors and just add the delicious fats.
Yeah.
Cook to taste, and you don't have to get super fancy. And I think that's another thing that discourages people. They think, oh, I'm not very good with recipes, or I don't have time, and I would say, well, then don't make things that take a lot of time. Turkey burgers take 6 minutes.
Yeah. And while they're cooking, you can prepare a salad on the side, or something simple like this. Yeah.
Yep. And the tips, boy, so many tips. One tip would be also that get used to the idea that there's no one source for cheap food, and that's unfortunate. I would love to be able to tell the world, here's where you buy cheap food, the end. But unfortunately, it does require a little bit of effort at the beginning to keep track of what your frequent flyers are in your kitchen, what you use most of, and then just start looking around at different places, grocery stores, farmers markets, whatever, and ask the people in your world, because there may be something you don't even know about.
Right.
Of course, like the turkey farm. A coworker of mine, she knew I was into cheap food, and she said, "Hey, have you been to Ferndale Market?" And, no, where's that? Well, of course I've never been there. It's 45 minutes south of me. But to keep track of the best prices of the foods that you eat the most, and then just buy them there. And it might mean shopping at 3, 4, 5 different places, or stocking up a few times a year at the places that are farther away. And don't worry too much about the little things. If it's something like, if you only buy mustard twice a year, don't sweat it, But if you eat broccoli every day, then do sweat it and find the best price for broccoli.
So do you use coupons, or do you, I know that a lot of grocery stores, they have loss leaders, and they get you in, and then you buy the more expensive thing because they do their best to do that. So do you go for loss leaders only and then walk out?
That's correct.
Okay.
No shame. I'll buy the loss leaders. And that's another reason why it's a good idea to keep a record of prices of different foods, because sometimes things will be on a display. You go for the cheap loss leader, and then you turn to the right and say, "Ooh, wow, what's this?" And big sale blowout, and you realize, if you have that on record, like, wait a minute, that's not any cheaper than the everyday price at blah de blah store. So that helps. But I don't use coupons, because the brands that have coupons tend to be processed foods.
Yeah.
The things I eat are not you know, I might have a coupon for paper towels or Kleenex or something like that, or maybe mustard. But I don't eat a lot of processed foods, and clipping coupons also, those brands tend to be the ones that are more expensive anyway, and usually cheaper to buy a store brand than to buy a name brand with a coupon, unless it's double coupon day or some
Right.
go like that.
Right. Here in Austin, we have a store that does something interesting. It's once in a while, not regularly, but if you buy over $50, then they give you $10 back, or you get a $10 discount, no matter what you buy.
That's
so
great.
You have to present the coupon and give it to the register. So, but it happens. Probably when they want to push for sales, to buy more than the minimum, because some people, I do my shopping only once a week, and I don't go to shop lower price specifically, but I do pay attention. If I see a sale on the product, then I'll grab a few more than I would, and then I'm set for a few weeks. Otherwise, I keep doing my regular shopping like that. So that leads me to another question: is do you go to large like superstore like Walmart or Costco to do your shopping as well?
I don't, only because, well, Walmart because of ideological differences, but Costco, it's because I live alone and I don't need sometimes to have huge, 144 packets of seaweed or things like that. And also, of course, my boyfriend and I would ride our bikes to Costco, and we realized pretty quickly that there's not much that you can buy at Costco that fits on a bike rack. But yeah, it didn't make sense for a single household, and even the two of us. He lives across the alley from me. Even sharing a membership, I don't think we recouped our expense. Maybe on coconut oil, they have a pretty good price on coconut oil, but you got to pay $50 to join. Yeah. It was kind of a bust. But for someone who has a huge household, either a big family or a lot of roommates, it does make sense, because there are a lot of staples that you can save a lot. Things like oil and balsamic vinegar and aforementioned seaweed. Or although the other caveat I would share about warehouse stores is that sometimes having 5 pounds of pine nuts in the pantry leads you to use more pine nuts than you would have had you only bought a 3-ounce packet. So sometimes, again, you're not really saving money because you're using more, because it's nice to feel abundance. It's nice to feel that I can have all the pecans I want because I've got 6 more pounds in the freezer. I definitely used a lot more nuts when I was buying them at Costco, and it was probably not a great idea. But that having said that, if you can be more disciplined than me, then by all means, join a warehouse club.
Right. So do you set a budget and you go by it no matter what? You never go over. Can you give us an idea? Like, I know it's difficult because there's so many different size family, and typically as a single person, you tend to eat per person a little more expensive because, I don't know, you tell me, you're the expert.
Well, I mean, sometimes when you can buy a larger quantity, the larger sizes are cheaper per ounce. Not always. Check the label, check the shelf tag, because sometimes the larger size costs more per ounce. But okay, what was the question? How much do I budget? I don't really budget. I buy what I need. I stock up on things when they're on sale. Take advantage of seasonal deals. But I keep track of every penny I spend, and I've done this for 22 years now. my food bill is very consistent from year to year. It's always around $7 a day. So $220, $210 a month. Some months are a lot more expensive. For example, the months where I go to the turkey farm, of course, they're going to be higher. And some months are much cheaper, like say coming up in June when the kale in my backyard starts coming up, and in August when I've got green beans coming up in the garden. So I will have maybe a whole week where everything I eat vegetable wise is from my own garden. So that month I may only spend $100, but the other months are usually closer to 2 something. Then sometimes they're closer to 3, but it's been pretty consistent since at least on the paleo. Yeah, I would say for at least the past 7 years, it's been around that per month, 220, we'll say.
Okay.
So I don't set a budget only because I wouldn't want to limit myself to stocking up on those deals. Like you say, you see something on sale, particularly something that keeps. For example, your $50 purchase that get $10 off. Well, that's a great time to stock up on vinegar or tea or non-perishables. You certainly don't want $50 worth of cilantro because it's probably not going to last a week. But
so 20 different ways to prepare kale and green beans?
Oh, sure. I mean, I always default to my favorites, but actually I was thinning out the kale in the garden because, you need to have few per row. I ended up with over a pound of tiny baby kale. So I steamed it. It was very spaghetti-like. And that's something I never realized before. I'm like, well, the heck with spaghetti squash. Tiny baby micro kale. You can twirl it and eat it just like pasta.
Nice. Now, speaking of fresh food, do you buy at the farmer's market, and how do you buy at the farmer's market?
Oh, I definitely buy food at the farmer's market. I have my couple favorite growers. I've been going there for, good heavens, 25 years. The downtown St. Paul Farmer's Market is great because they have a rule that everything has to be grown within 50 miles of the market. There are some in Minneapolis, they don't have those rules. So you'll see lemons and bananas that I don't think they grow in Minnesota. Not sure. No. But I do ride my bike to the farmer's market for the specific reason that I can't eat in 1 week more than I can carry in my 2 bike bags. Because when I go and everything's in season and everything looks gorgeous, I want to buy everything. Yeah. And I get it home and I go on Saturday mornings. So here Thursday night, Friday morning, and I still have 6 green peppers and 2 big bunches of Chinese broccoli. And I think, oh boy, here we go. And I could freeze them, but they're so good fresh. And my freezer space is reserved for the turkey. And also I grow raspberries in the backyard. And that's, I get about 50 quarts a year of raspberries. So take precedence. But I have those favorite growers of mine. One is certified organic. One is not certified, but he just hasn't bothered to jump through the hoops, the regulatory hoops. But he's all
and the cost.
No chemicals. Yeah. Oh, the cost is pretty high. So I always take one round through the market first to see what everybody's got, and then my second trip through, I'll buy the things. One little tip that I can impart is if you're really on a budget, try not to buy things the very first week they show up, because usually they cost a little bit more. And once the season is in full swing, that those $3 you spent for that is now only going to be $1. So it might not seem like a lot, but I like to. One of my other tips is to do the math and figure out, okay, big deal. So I save $1 a week. Well, that's $52 a year. And that's a lot of money. If you can save $1 a week on 10 different things, that's $500 a year. And that's 2 months of free food or months worth of groceries. So when things don't seem like a big deal, oh, last week it was $3. I don't want to wait till to be $2. Like, okay, and maybe you could have the life is short, eat all the Chinese broccoli you want, but if you could just exercise restraint and just trust that, yes, next week, or even ask them, will you be here next week? Will you have this next week? If they say, no, this is the last week, well, then of course buy it.
Delayed gratification is a great way to save money too.
Oh,
you know,
sure is.
And buying in season definitely is cheapest way to buy food now. I have a suggestion for you to add to your bicycle.
Yes.
Put a meal crate on the rack behind your seat.
See, then I'll buy more, and then I won't be able to finish it. By the
Yeah, but that leads me to my next point, which is preserves. So do you do preserves? Do you do canning? Do you do these kind of things because you can buy fresh food in bulk and then you preserve them and then you're set for the winter, for example.
Right. I have done that in the past. And I know a lot of people have really great results and really get a good rhythm going of buying, processing, canning. And of course, the canned stuff does not take up room in the freezer, doesn't use electricity.
Right.
I just had to be honest with myself that I didn't eat the things. I had a whole bunch of sauerkraut that I didn't eat it.
Right.
And, so I know a lot of people do that. And also you can just get a bigger freezer, and most vegetables condense when you blanch them and they don't take up as much room. But I just had to be had a frank reckoning with myself that I just didn't like doing it and I didn't like eating them. And I was nervous about food safety with things that didn't have an acidic medium or the salt, because I have a salt sensitivity also.
Right.
A lot of the preserved and fermented foods use an awful lot of salt, and I can't eat that. So
what about making wonderful raspberry preserves with your fresh raspberries?
Oh, well, except that I don't eat sugar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I did try making it once, and it keeps for a few weeks in the refrigerator, but that's about it. But oh well. Yeah, but I would never want to discourage anyone else from doing it, because it is the best way to what would you say, consolidate size-wise, because you can have big bushels of berries that or dehydrating too.
Yeah.
Which uses a lot of electricity, but every place is different. Every person's different. I guess the key is to know what you are really going to eat, what you're really going to do. If a person, I know plenty of people get on a kick and like, I'm going to buy 6 food dehydrators and I'm going to make my own jerky and I'm going to make my own dried blueberry fruit leather, and maybe start with one food dehydrator and see how it goes, and see if you really do eat those throughout the year. And if you do, then have at it. Keep going.
Another way to save money, which is not food but energy, is if you can set yourself up on a solar power system or the wind.
Yep.
What do you call this? Wind.
Just wind power.
Yeah.
I actually got wind powers last year. I've had them for a little over a year now. And,
okay, good for you.
Yeah, and I have an electric car, so I got the whole green loop.
Great for you. Okay. Yes, I wanted to share a tip that I use when when I go to a farmer's market, and when I have to have something, then I'll buy it at whatever price. But if I'm disciplined enough, I wait until the end, or like 30 minutes before the closing, and I look for deals, or I how do you call
Haggle
over price with the farmers, because they don't want to take it back home. They want to sell it. They want to. So is that something you use as well?
I used to, back when I was making, I used to make a big batch of tomato soup every year with, gallons and gallons of it. And I would usually do that toward the end of the day. They close at 1. I'd usually go about 12:30 and say, how much you want for that? Like, oh, you sure? And yeah, that's a great way to do it. And especially if you like to freeze or can or dehydrate, everybody wins. The farmer wins, the grower wins because they don't have to haul it back to the farm.
Right.
You win because you get a good price. Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And just don't be afraid to haggle. Don't be afraid to lowball. The worst thing.
Right.
No. I can only speak for Minnesotans. We're very bad at haggling. We're too polite. Like, we would think it'd be an insult to offer less than half of what the sign says. But
right,
try it.
You sound like Canadians.
Well, we're very near Canada. We consider ourselves honorary Canadians here in Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you could get a nice 30 to sometimes even 50% discount of the price on the label. So any other great tips?
Probably all kinds of them. I'll think of some later today at noon. One thing is you make the use, how can I say this? Make good use of free time when you have it, even if that free time doesn't happen at meal prep time. And what I mean by that is if you say you work until 6 or 6:30 and you know you're always starving when you get home from work, well, maybe get up 20 minutes early in the morning and get a slow cooker, chop some things, saute some things, get things started. Do a little favor for that after work self and take advantage of that time. Or if you don't work on weekends, take a Sunday afternoon and do some advanced meal prep, some measuring and chopping and pre-cooking, or make a whole batch of something, a soup or stew, and then freeze it. Even if you have an extra 15 minutes to get something started. This is actually something I discovered by accident. It's my favorite way to make cabbage, which is a braised, I don't even know what you'd call it, a time-lapse braise, where you cook it for 15 minutes and then shut it off with the lid on it. And then a couple hours later or overnight, cook it for another 15 minutes, turn it off for another couple hours. It continues to cook, but it won't overcook, it won't burn, but it creates a really nice texture where it's cooked through and soft and silky, but not mushy. My other favorite way to cook green beans is a slow braise. But yeah, if you can do little things here and there to make something easier for yourself later in the day or later in the week.
Okay. Well, one thing we forgot to mention is all of this necessitates you to cook. So someone needs to be able to cook or to at least have minimum cooking skills to save money. Is that enough an incentive? The problem in this society nowadays is that everything has to be convenient.
Right.
And convenience cost.
Yes.
So how do you trade convenience for cooking time? I mean, that's the whole equation here for most people. They're now willing to spend time in the kitchen.
Right. I guess what that requires is a complete change of mindset, to stop thinking of that as wasted time or drudgery or a chore or this other. Make it part of your life. Make it part of your socializing. Put on a headset and talk to a friend on the phone while you're cooking, as long as you're paying attention to things like how high the heat is. If you live with other people, get everyone in the kitchen and put on some music and make it fun. And I guess the problem is that compartmentalization of, this is my relaxation time, this is my productive time. Like, well, you can be productive and do some cooking, and it doesn't have to be a chore. You do have to pay attention. But I think people would be surprised at how much they can do if they don't put big pressure on themselves to do something incredible every time. Like, I'm sure people would see a book title that says French cooking and say, oh, I'll never be able to do that. That's fancy. Right. That's hard. It's like, well, if you read it, you'll see that no, it's more just about elegant simplicity.
Right, and this is what I try to teach in my book, is that there are very simple, basic cooking techniques that don't take a lot of expertise, and then yet you will get fantastic results. But you do have to learn those techniques. They don't have to be complicated. I'm not talking about flambé or, or making soufflé, but once you know the basic techniques, all it takes is maybe take a couple of cooking classes to get the knife skills and then the basic cooking skill, and basically after that, you're good to go.
Right. All you need to do is know how to saute, learn what the difference is between simmer and boil, and really might just need to go to a friend's house who does know how to cook, or a family member, and say, can I just watch you? Can you show me? I mean, yeah, we can't assume that everybody knows what a saute means or what golden brown looks like.
Right.
So, but it's pretty, learn what you need to know at the time you need to know it. And that, I confess, one of the reasons I don't cook cuts of meat is because if I'm going to splurge and spend $2 on a portion of lamb or steak or something, I don't want to wreck it. And because my formative adult years were spent as a vegetarian, I didn't have years of trial and error and learning and making mistakes. So I don't want to wreck anything. So that's why I don't cook steak and lamb chops and things like that. It's like, I know how to make a burger, so I'm going to make burgers. I know.
So one thing that a lot of people are afraid of is, cooking is so complicated and everything. It doesn't have to be. The food you eat doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to involve difficult, complicated, 20 steps recipe. You could cook very healthy, very fresh food, like you said before. When you use fresh food, good quality fresh food, the flavor is there. You don't need to do a whole lot to it. A little steaming, a little saute, a little broiling, that's all it takes. So, or like you say, use the crock pot. That's simple enough. You put all the ingredients, the liquid, and let it cook all day. So for the listeners out there, try not to be scared by techniques. Find a way to learn the basics and have fun with it. Don't get all stressed out about it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think also people need to remember that YouTube has got some wonderful videos on it.
Sure.
That's true.
It's available to most people. So you watch 2 or 3 videos for maybe 5-7 minutes each, and you've seen how, what might sound like a complicated technique can actually be done quite easily.
Good point. Yeah, and actually in my book, I have some recipes, and I have what I would call templates, where you take one food from each column, like this protein, one protein, one vegetable, one sauce, one extra, a little flavor accent, and mix and match them however you like. And you could, someone could do the math and figure out, 10 different proteins, 10 different things. I don't know how many different combinations there are, but enough combinations to keep you from getting bored with your meals. Yeah. Oh, that's the other. This is kind of an out of the angled tip or comment, is that sometimes people hear that I eat the same thing every day, turkey burgers and cabbage or whatever. Well, don't you get bored with that? Not only does rotating the seasonings help, but also being a little bit hungry when you eat. And this sounds like the simplest, most obvious thing in the world, but sometimes we don't let ourselves get hungry. And I'm not talking ravenous, delirious, confused, dizzy hungry, but just stomach growling hungry. Because how many times have I heard stories of people describing the best meal they ever had? More often than not, it starts with, well, I was really hungry, ... And we sometimes eat because of what the clock says, and part this workplace, school, whatever. But if you have a little bit of choice of when you can eat, if you let yourself just get a little bit hungry, that everything you eat is going to taste really good. And it doesn't matter how fancy it is. And as long as you don't let yourself, if you're so hungry that you grab something terrible, well, just don't have anything terrible around to grab. That's the other hint. Don't bring Doritos home if you don't intend to.
And another thing I learned in microbiology class is that two things actually. One of them is that you should not eat more than what you can hold in your hand as volume. You should actually leave the table slightly hungry so that you don't overwhelm your system, your digestive system, with too much food, because a lot of people, they just like inhale food. Okay, and that's the other advice, is like no distraction. Almost eat food like you cannot watch TV and appreciate food at the same time. Right. You have to, because you're not showing respect to either one of them. If you're watching a movie and you're eating chips at the same time or something, you eat absent-minded, and you end up eating a lot more than you're supposed to because you're not paying attention. And you also don't pay attention to the movie, so you're not respecting the food or the movie either way. So no distraction, eat and eat slowly, so your body has time to take in the food and give you the signal, okay, I have had enough. Because the problem, and I see that in this country, is that you have this huge plate of food on your table, and then you just swallow it, eat it very fast, and before your body can say, hey, wait a minute, that's way too much. I don't need more than really half of what you have on the plate. So society, actually, not society as in society, but I don't know how to pronounce satiety. When what is it?
Satiety.
Okay, that word. I still can't pronounce it, but it is a very important signal we should pay attention to. My observation is that in this country, you see a lot of people with big stomachs. And my take on that is that they eat too much, too fast, and eventually it is going to stretch their stomach, to where you don't see so much of that in Europe. Of course, there are, but that's usually beer. It's not, but not to the extent in this country. And it took me a while to figure it out, and finally it dawned on me. It's just, people eat too much in volume and too fast, and which means that they don't have time to get the signal, because your hormones, there are hormones that will let you give you a signal, have had enough. Typically I found that in France, for example, which I'm from, people know their limit. They know, okay, that's it, I'm done, enough. I don't need seconds, I don't need thirds, I don't need an extra dessert, I've had enough. And I'm not seeing much of that in this country. What's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I see a lot of volume equals quality. Like, hey, did you go to that new place? God, they've seen the portions, they're huge. Well, we have a very limited, I don't know what you call it, a saturation point of our taste buds and our texture and how long a food tastes good to us. And after so many bites, it then becomes as this zombie exercise in finishing, like clean the plate, finish. Whereas in Europe, certainly I was in Sicily in March, and they have these multi-course meals, which seems on the menu very indulgent, but when they actually come out with the plates, they're very modest, and you get just enough to have the last bite tastes as good as the first, and then you're done. Versus at Olive Garden, since when did the last bite taste as good as the first? It's more like you just get into this zone of shovel. And yes, I did not notice. I didn't think I saw one obese person in all my travels in Sicily, in the Balkans. Like you say, some kind of chunky, but I agree that you don't really taste the food, and my own bugaboo was reading while I was eating. Whatever was on the table, I would read, And so I managed to get that. And then I used to listen to the radio. I'd listen to NPR, whatever. And I stopped doing that because I realized that, like you say, I wasn't doing either of them justice. I was just kind of staring off into space and eating and kind of listening and kind of eating. And like, wait a minute, I've been waiting for hours to eat this delicious meal. Here I turn on the radio and I'm not even fully experiencing it 100%. So now, God help anyone who eats with me, I got my eyes closed. Sometimes even kind of humming, because that brings the aroma up into this, I forget what it's called, the vomer, or this pharyngionasal something or other, where you have like a third nose back in the back of your throat. Wait, second nose. Sorry. I only have one here. But just really, so even saying while you're eating makes the food taste better, or it makes you taste more of the food. So I look like a maniac when I'm eating, because I've got my humming and chewing and like, obviously I don't do this when I'm out at a restaurant.
Right.
Don't usually do anyway, but it's
so folks, we have these two tips in one. It's a diet tip and a Tightwad tip. That is, if you control your amount of eating, not only you're not going to gain weight and you're going to stay on your diet, but secondly, you'll save money because you eat only half as much food.
It's true. It's true.
Right.
Yep.
Food smells 3 times as good in Minnesota.
That's right.
Right.
Because they have 3 noses.
We all have 3 noses.
Right. Yeah, mine is in the back of my head. My third one.
That's great.
Interesting stuff coming from you, Carolyn. Thank you for that.
Sure.
One thing that sort of strikes me is the fact that you must be naturally low carb.
Low carb?
Yeah, you don't eat a lot of carbs at all.
Oh, not at all. The only real carbs I eat in significant amounts are from those raspberries, those free raspberries from the backyard. Yeah, because I don't eat dairy anymore. And yeah, I have an apple tree also, which I'll eat those when they're in season. Not more than one a day. But yeah, it is. I don't calculate my carbs per day, because I've looked into how much cabbage has, how many carbs are in cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, and it's so minuscule, and the fiber, there's so much fiber that I don't do a daily tally. But yeah, I would say I'm definitely low carb.
So I mean, the question arises for me is, I mean, do you get a lot of your energy then from fat?
I do. I love fat.
Which fats do you like?
Primarily coconut oil, only because it's easy. And now I will name names. Aldi has a great price. I don't know if they have some Aldis in Europe, of course. But it's here, the Minnesota ones is $4.49 for I want to say it's a 14-ounce jar of organic coconut oil.
Wow.
That's my go-to. And olive oil I like. And I just recently splurged and got some Fatworks buffalo tallow and wild boar lard, which I would not say is a tightwad move, but I just, in the interest of research, I decided to try them, and they're pretty tasty. But I would only use them as seasoning and not as a cooking medium, just because they are, 25 cents a teaspoon. Something like that could easily add $1.50 to each meal, and that would blow my budget. But yeah, what other fats do I use? That's really it. I eat a lot of tahini.
Have you had duck fat?
Dark fat?
Duck.
I don't know.
Duck.
Oh, duck. Oh, duck. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is delicious. Yeah.
It's interesting how all these fats are coming back into fashion now.
Yeah. Well, they're very French, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really funny with the duck fat. I've heard a lot about a lot of restaurants. Their new hip thing is French fries made in duck fat.
Yes.
When I eat the duck fat, I think, I can almost taste the potato. Like, I don't need the potato. It's implied. There's an implied potato in duck fat. So if I cook cauliflower with it, I'm there.
Yeah.
French
now,
fries.
you did mention You did mention recipes earlier, though you don't have that many in your book, I understand.
Not a lot. I have some basics, like a vinaigrette, which is very important because salad dressings cost a lot of money in the store, and most of them are made with canola oil.
Yeah.
And so a good vinaigrette that you can riff on. Do I have, coconut nogurt, I call it, because some people like to buy dairy-free yogurts, and they are wicked expensive. They're like $2 for a little cup. And if you are already getting your probiotics from some other source, and all you want is something creamy to eat, there's this stuff called konjac. Are you familiar with it? If you okay. It's a no carb starch that is used as a thickener, and if you mix it with things like coconut milk, it thickens it, and the texture is just like yogurt. And so just add your own vanilla or stevia or whatever, and it's significantly cheaper than coconut yogurt. Which coconut yogurt has a lot of good health properties, but if you're lazy like me and think, it's not, I'm not going to do that, or I don't, if it's something that needs to ferment at room temperature, well, as a tightwad, my room temperature in the winter is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, so ain't nothing fermenting in my kitchen. But yeah, so some recipes like that. I think I have a walnaise, I call it, which is a mayonnaise-like spread sauce, whatever you want to call it. It's very much like mayonnaise, but it's made with walnuts. That's one of my staples. So I mostly just have recipes for the basics, the staples, things that you can use a lot. Not necessarily, I don't have a lot of recipes for a dish. I do have a blog that's, I think I sent you a link, is Primal Tightwad at Blogspot, something. That's where I post my recipes for when I do some weird, I'm rather what you might call an experimental cook, where I get an idea and like, I wonder if you could make a chocolate shake with cauliflower. The answer to that is yes. And so I'll blog about that, or just weird stuff. So this is not a blog of recipes that you'd go to for, I need to bring something to a baby shower, or I need to bring something to Thanksgiving. It's more like, what can a weird person do with weird ingredients then tastes really great? Like, that's what I do. And I just posted my turkey burger variations on my blog. So if my 10,000 recipes for turkey burger seasonings. But yeah, I don't like to get too attached to recipes, because that's where people get into trouble with saving money, or such to say spending too much money, is buying 20 ingredients, buying a container of each spice for those ingredients, or buying the thing that's going to spoil in the fridge in a week if you don't use the rest of it. So I think as I pull it, liberate yourself from the tyranny of recipes and just make stuff that tastes good.
So tips for families out there: if you make your children eat turkey burger every day, they're going to hate you.
Yep. Unless you make them different every time.
Right.
Yeah, but kids are going to hate you anyway, so go ahead and feed them healthy food.
Okay.
What about snacks? Do you have any snack foodie things that you recommend?
Oh boy, I'm kind of the snack meister, or the Prime Minister of Snackistan, I've been called.
Okay.
I use a lot of coconut oil. I make these little things I call them hemp cookies, where I'll mix coconut oil and hemp protein and hemp hearts, and then maybe cocoa powder or some powdered fenugreek to give it a maple flavor. And I just make a million variations of that. It's also been called cocoa crack. You have to keep it in the fridge. Yeah, if you don't, how can I say this? You'll eat however much you make. So don't make more than you really think you should eat. But yeah, so just weird combinations of coconut oil and cocoa powder. Nuts, I'd like to toast. Sometimes I'll take toasted or raw shredded coconut and toast it with slivered almonds and coconut oil, and add a little Ras Al Hanout spice blend or Ethiopian berbere blend, and a little stevia and a little salt. So it's like a salty, sweet, spicy, toasted coconut almond. Oh yeah, really good. I almost have to watch it because I will eat it. What else?
My beard is getting soggy.
Oh yeah. But but mostly in the summer. Sometimes cucumbers. That's my favorite snack. Is a fresh cucumber right out of the garden, just skin and all. What more could you want? But I think practical wise for people who are on the go, as so many people are, nuts are easy. Raw almonds. Who has the best price on those? Probably Trader Joe's has the best price on those and the better quality. Yeah, I probably do other snacking, but I can't really think. It's always simple. Well, other than my spicy toasted things, they're usually pretty straightforward.
Super. Well, you've given us a huge amount of information again. Where can people get hold of your book, more information about you, and are you on social channels and that sort of thing?
Sure. Well, the book is called Primal Tightwad, so the URL is primaltightwad.com, and there's just the one page where you can click on the link to buy the book. And I think I've got a couple recipes on that too. The ones that I couldn't get permission from the author to put in the book, I put on my primaltightwad.com website. The blog, I believe, is just primaltightwad@blogspot.com, or if you just Google Primal Tightwad blog, cauliflower, because half my recipes have cauliflower. And then on Facebook, I'm just Primal Tightwad, and that's the only. I'm kind of a Luddite. I've got one social medium, and that's Facebook, and I don't post a whole lot. There might be a flurry when I'm on a kick, and then maybe a while. But I only on the plus side of that, it means you're not getting something in your news feed every single day. Like if it's from me, it means it's relevant and it's interesting and not just content. Like gotta have content. It's like I'll provide content when it's something interesting and useful to me that I think other people would appreciate and enjoy. So yeah, like me on Facebook, and I promise I will not clog your news feed.
Thank you again, Carolyn, for being on the Low Carb Paleo Show and sharing your story and your tips with us. And like we say in Texas, à votre santé, yo.
I have no idea what that means.
It's something they say all the time in Texas. You hear it everywhere.
Yes. All the French Texans say it.
Oh, them.
Yeah.
All six of you.